How's it going, everybody? Squatch here, and today I'm going to do a review for you on this game I just happened to stumble upon while I was looking through Steam. It combines some of my favorite things like the old school platformers that you would have seen on Nintendo and Super Nintendo with some of the more modern stuff like roguelikes and mashes them into one. It's called Skul The Hero Slayer. So let's go ahead and get into this review. To start out with, we're going to go ahead and get into the narrative. Now, Skul the Hero Slayer does have a bit of a story to it. The other roguelike that I would compare to having a story right now would be Hades. Hades has a much deeper story than what Skul does, but there is a bit of a story here to enjoy and kind of investigate what's going on and why things are happening the way that they are. Not very deep, but there is still something to enjoy there. In this video, you can actually currently see some of the story panels that set up what's going on, and you'll see some of them as you go throughout the game. As you beat one area and go into the next, you'll see another little cutscene, if you will, like what you're seeing right now. While it's not a very deep story, I will admit that obviously this little boy that you're seeing in the cartoon has got to be Skul. But I'm not entirely sure. I haven't been able to beat the game in its entirety yet. But you just know that that little skeleton that you're playing as is that little boy. So I was intrigued to see what happened to this little kid. Getting into the way the game plays, I think if you pick this up, you're not going to be treated to a drastically different experience than any of the other modern roguelites out there, to name a few like Hades or Dead Cells even. You're going to be going into these different maps, and they're going to be randomized. You're going to have different enemies and different rewards for each room, but I kind of feel like Skul has a little bit of a faltering here in the sense that you can almost kind of predict what's going to happen in the next room. It seems like they don't have very many templates that they can choose from to go from one room to the next. You can almost predict it. It's not a bad thing, but a little bit more variety would be great there. Another thing to note here is that this is pretty much like, say, Hades or Dead Cells, like the examples I've already given, and that you will accumulate a currency that you can use to buff yourself, just starting out with more health, being able to revive once or more times as you go through your run, or upgrade your physical or magical abilities, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just another comparison between those other titles. One thing that I quickly noticed about this is how it reminded me so much of a game I used to play back when I was a kid on my Sega Genesis called Kid Chameleon. And it's not just a simple comparison like that they were both platformers. No, in Kid Chameleon, you would switch out your hat or helmet or whatever, and you would get different abilities like being able to swing a samurai sword or turn into a rhinoceros and bulldoze through walls. In this, you're actually changing your whole head to get different abilities, like being a samurai, being a spear wielder, or even in some of the crazier instances, being like a knockoff Ghost Rider. So here I'm just going to show off some of the skulls that I've come across through my runs through the game. Now they can be broken down into 3 different types: speed, balance, and power. Now, those attributes are going to be affected by different pickups that you can find along the way that are going to affect your physical power, your magical power, how fast you move. But there's also another category that each fit into. So there are common, there are rare, legendary, and unique. Each of the skulls that you're going to find throughout your runs in the game are going to be put into 3 different categories: power, balance, and speed. Now, if a power skull is equipped, you're going to notice that your physical strength is going to be what focuses all of that skull's abilities. A speed-based skull, you're going to be focused mainly on movement speed and attack speed. Those are actually going to change the damage per second that that skull can do. Now, the balance skulls, they play a little differently. So they can be affected by movement speed, attack speed, as well as physical strength. Now, you're also going to have some other skulls that are going to be within those 3: balance, speed, and power, but they're going to be using magical-based abilities. One of the things that I truly appreciated about the different level of rarities in the skulls is like what you're gonna see come out of these skulls. As you can see on the screen right now, I am using the rocker skull, and if you get the attack up high enough, you actually start a concert with a bunch of other skeletons. But that's actually one of the points I kind of want to get into here. As you go up in the rarities of the different skulls, you'll notice crazier and crazier abilities. The common skulls are pretty effective early on in the game, but as you find different ones through your run, or you're just lucky to find a really great one from the beginning, you'll notice that it's a little over the top. As you can see, I'm using the Great Warlock skull here, and I just summoned a meteor that just basically decimated everything on the screen. It's kind of a shame I didn't have enemies there, because that would have been great. In this clip, you can see that I have found a legendary skull called the Champion skull. This is one of the top of the line skulls in the game. This is top tier. There's nothing really better in the game as far as quality and power that these legendary skulls present. Brings me to my next point. Whenever I said that this is a top tier skull, I mean that it can't be upgraded. It's at maximum power. But as you go through your runs, you'll see that you find this character, Arachne, and she will trade you bone fragments that you found from destroying skulls to upgrade whatever skull you have equipped. Now, if you start with a common, she'll upgrade it to a rare, and so on and so forth. Now, you'll need 10 to upgrade it one time, and then 30, and then 100. As you upgrade the skulls, you'll notice that they've gone up a level, so from common to rare, so on and so forth. As you upgrade them, you'll notice that you have unlocked a second skill. You may have another little passive ability or support ability that comes with that skull, depending on what type of skull it is and what its theme is. Any game out there in the roguelike genre that didn't come with items, I feel would be kind of incomplete. So you can actually find items in Skul the Hero Slayer which will buff your playstyle. You can find them in certain rooms as rewards, and every so many floors you're going to end up going to the shop, where you can spend the gold that you've acquired to buy armor, jewelry, or even like a quintessence, which is the little thing on my right bumper that I can use to buff my playstyle, get extra abilities, things like that. Looking at the difficulty of the game, I wouldn't say that Skul the Hero Slayer is any harder than, say, Hades or Dead Cells, the examples that I've already given. In the earlier levels, you're going to be fighting pretty easy enemies to deal with, but as you go from area to area, you're going to be fighting harder enemies to kill. And with that being on your mind, the bosses for each end area is going to be a little bit harder. You're going to have to memorize more patterns, and you're going to have to deal with a different set of situations. And they can get a little crazy at times, but I wouldn't say any more so than what you would expect from a boss in any other game like this. Let's go ahead and give a listen to the audio in this game. And I'm going to go ahead and start this out with the music for Skul. Early on, whenever you're in the forest, it's very light, very playful, and it almost lends to a childlike imagination of adventure. It seems very fun, and it's nice to be in this area. Lending to the uniqueness of each area that you go into, from say the forest to the castle to the alchemist den, you're going to get a different theme music for each area, which just lends to the creative feel to each area that you're going to be exploring through. Getting down to some of the smaller details, you'll notice that each enemy and attack that they have at their disposal has a unique sound. You can automatically tell when there's a fire mage about to throw a fireball at you. You can tell when a soldier is attempting to swing a sword at you, or when one of these big Goliaths is about to bull rush you into a wall. Even Skul's attacks for each skull has a unique sound, and I feel like it was very well thought out, going from being like the End Skull here and just smashing things to the rocker skull where I was strumming away on an electric guitar. They really did think about the audio in this game, and I'm greatly appreciative of it because it lends to the immersion that I get when playing this title. Getting into the way that Skul the Hero Slayer looks, I've got to say that I truly appreciate the art direction in this game. I think it looks great. from everything in the foreground that you're actively playing on, the way Skull looks, the way the enemies look, to the way the background looks. It throws up a little bit more depth. And there have been a couple of times where I've caught myself just kind of taking in the backdrop and just being like, wow, that actually looks really cool. And I do have a bit of a soft spot, if you haven't been able to tell, that for these old pixelated looking games, these retro style games. I absolutely love them. So Skul the Hero Slayer just hit the mark for me with the way it looked. I absolutely love the way each area has its own feel just by appearance. Even if you are getting into the music, they look amazing. And the way that the skulls look are awesome. Getting down to the common skulls all the way up into the unique and legendary ones, they all have a unique style to them. And the attacks that each one has, they all look fantastic. I absolutely love them. Getting into the replayability, because as I've already stated on this channel before, if a game can only be played one time, it wasn't worth very much to begin with. But I feel that Skul the Hero Slayer has a ton of replay value, not just because there's a story that you probably want to get through, but you have a unique run every time you pick it up, which is what these type of games are meant for. So being able to find like a unique or legendary skull and then finding all the right equipment to just make it over the top is fantastic. So I feel that there is a ton of replay value in this game, and I think it's worth every penny you could spend on it. Speaking of putting pennies into this game, currently it is on Steam for $15.99, which, I mean, to be completely honest, I think is a great deal, almost a steal. Getting into my final thoughts for this game, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, yes, I know that I have a weird rating system because I don't do 10 out of 10 or 5 stars, and I just basically tell you if you should play it or not. I'm going to go ahead and let you know that if you're into roguelites, it's a must buy. If you want a game that you can just have a little bit of fun with, drop in, drop out, maybe you're just trying to play while you're waiting to catch a plane or something like that, it's a must buy. It's pretty good. Now, if you're not really into this type of game, I would tell you, well, maybe don't play it. Maybe wait and see if it catches your attention later on down the road. But overall, I'm going to say it's a must play. With all that said, I'm going to go ahead and bring this video to a close. But guys, I would really appreciate it if you liked the video, go ahead and give me a like and a subscribe. And stick around for some more content that I'll be putting out on this channel exactly like this. I'll be doing playthroughs, reviews, and whatever else just comes to mind, just being a general nerd squatch. I do really appreciate you stopping by though, and I hope you have a great day, and hope to see you again soon.